In this video, we're going to be solving a percent mixture problem using a linear equation. So our first problem, we have two factory plants that are making TV panels. Yesterday, plant A produced twice as many panels as plant B. 4% of the panels from plant A and 2% of the panels from plant B were defective. How many panels did plant B produce if the two plants together produced 900 defective panels? Okay, so I'm going to split this up into A and B. Plant A, I'll call A, and plant B, I'll call B. Okay, so first let's do how much. So we have plant A produced twice as many plants or as many panels as plant B. Okay, so if we weren't given another amount besides that, just that they relate to each other and that A produces twice as many as B. So I'll say if B produces X amount of panels and A produces twice as many, then A produces 2X. Okay, so we know that how much, the amount is there. Okay, and now let's do the percent. Okay, so for plant A, let's find that 4% of panels from plant A were defective. So 4%. Okay, 2% of the panels from plant B were defective. So 2%. Okay, and now our total over here will be everything put together. Okay, so the total defective panels is what we have here. So that's going to be equal to 900. Okay, so there's our information. So plant A produced twice as many as plant B, and it also had a higher rate of defective panels, double the rate. Okay, so how do we set this up as an equation? Okay, so we know the total is 900, so I'll put equals 900 defective panels right there. Okay, so for A, let's write that first. It's 4% of them are defective, and how many? 2x. So 4% I'll write as, and by the way, 4% can be written as a decimal as 0.04, and 2% can be written as a decimal as 0.02. Okay, so that's how I'm going to write those. So we have 2x, and what percent of 2x is defective? 4%, so I'll write it as 0.04. Then we have x for plant B, and what percent of those are defective? That's going to be 2%, so 0.02. Okay. Now what I want to do is multiply these things through and then combine them together. So 2 times 0.04 is 0.08, and here's my x. And then we'll just write this as 0.02x equals 900. Okay. Combine those two, so 0.08 and 0.02 makes 0.10. And there's my x equals 900. And now finally, if I divide 0.10 to get that x by itself, I'll get my answer. It's going to be 9,000. Let me show you in the calculator real quick. Okay, so 900 divided by 0.10 is 9,000. Okay, so that is my answer. 9,000 panels were produced. Whoops, panels were produced. Okay, let's look at another one. So in this one, we have Susan invested her savings in 2 investment funds. The $15,000 that she invested in Fund A returned a 3% profit. Okay, so let's go ahead and start that. I'll write A, and I will say that the amount for A is $15,000. We were given an actual amount this time, $15,000. Okay, and the percent that we're given, which is percent profit, is 3%. Okay, let's keep going. The amount that she invested in Fund B returned a 10% profit. How much did she invest in Fund B if both funds together returned a 5% profit? So it doesn't tell us how much, what the amount of Plan B is. So if we don't know the amount, we have to assign it a variable. I'll just assign it an X. Okay. And it says it returns a 10% profit, so that's what I'll write here. And now for the total, over here, I want the total to be the two amounts, but 5% is the profit on the total. So I need 5% of these two added up. Okay, so equals 5%, so 0.05 of the total, and the total amount is 15,000 plus X. Okay, so she put this much in plan, or this much in plan A at 3%, this much in plan B at 10%, and she netted a 5% profit on the total. So this is our equation, and to get these two in the equation form, it would be 15,000 times 3%, or 0.03. Remember that 3% can be written as 0.03, and 10% can be written as 0.10. Okay, so we have A. Now for B, we have X times 10%, so 0.10 times X equals our total, which is 0.05 times 15,000 plus X. Okay, and now we solve for X. That's all we need to do. So I'm going to distribute here all the way there. Okay, and I also want to multiply this through as well. Okay, so let's go to our calculator on that. Here's my calculator. Let's see, what is 15,000 times 0.03? That's 450. So there we go. And then plus 0.10x equals, and now let's do this multiplication, 0.05 times 15,000 times 0.05 is 750. Okay, so 750, and then distribute it to the x, and it just becomes 0.05x. Okay, so let's go ahead and pick a side to put the x's on. I'm going to choose over here on the left side to put my x's on, which means I need to subtract this x to get it over to the other side. So 0.05 is what I'm subtracting. Okay, so we have 450 plus, if you do this subtraction, you get 0.05x positive equals 750. Now, if I subtract the 450 from both sides, then I get 0.05x is equal to 300. My last step is to divide both sides by 0.05. Okay, when I do that, put it in my calculator and see what I get as an answer. Okay, here's the calculator. 300 divided by 0.05. And I get 6,000. So $6,000 is how much she invested in Fund B. Okay, let's take a look at one more. Okay, for this one, in the lab, Layla has two solutions that contain alcohol and is mixing them with each other. Solution A is 40% alcohol and solution B is 10% alcohol. Okay, so here's A. That's 40%, so I'll write the percent first this time. Percent is 40% for A, and B is 10%. Okay, she uses 800 milliliters of solution A. Okay, so the amount on this is 600 milliliters. I'll just put 600. How many milliliters of solution B does she use? So we don't know solution B, the amount, so I'll put an unknown there. I'll put an X. If the resulting mixture is 20% alcohol solution, so the resulting mixture is the total. So the total amount, that's these two added up, times the 20% that they were given. So it's going to be 20% of, and that's going to be 600 plus X. Okay, now to write this as an equation, first let's write A. So A is 40% of 600. Recall that 40% can be written as 0.40 and 10% can be written as 0.10. Okay, so for A, it's 0.40 times 600. Oh, I just realized I was putting 600 and it should have been 800. Okay, quick little adjustment here. Let's make that an 8, that an 8, and that an 8. Sorry about that. But there's the corrected version. Okay. So for B, we have 10%, so 0.10 x, and then equals 20%, so 0.20 times 800, not 600, plus x. Okay, so let's solve this thing. So first, let's do this multiplication right here. So 0.40 times 800 is 320. So 320 plus 0.10x is equal to, let's do that multiplication. So 0.20 times 800 is 160. And then also distribute. We're distributing to both of these. Okay, so 0.20x. Okay. So now that we have that, let's pick a side for x. Since this one's the bigger, I'm going to move this over to that right side. So I'll subtract 0.10x from both sides. It'll cancel over here, leaving just the 320 equals 160. And if you do that subtraction, it'll be 0.10x. Okay, I'm going to subtract the 160. Okay, so that's going to be equal to 160. On that side, that cancels out and you get 0.10x. And the last thing we want to do is divide by the 0.10 on both sides so that it will cancel out over here. So that's x is equal to, let's go ahead and do that multiplication. So 160 divided by 0.10, and that's 1600. So 1600 is equal to x, or x is equal to 1600. I like writing it this way better. And that is the solution B. That's how much solution B that was used. And that's it.